This is Erin with the Joy in Pens and Paper, and I am going to do a memory keeping of the first 2 days of our recent Greece and Turkey trip. So the first full day was June 21st, and that was on a Friday. I went through my camera roll and printed out using a Kodak Steps printer some images from that travel day. And on that Friday, we spent part of the day in New York City because we were flying out of Newark, New Jersey, as opposed to Boston, Massachusetts. So we took advantage of the opportunity to go to the 9/11 Memorial Museum. And that is, for my husband and I, likely the first historical event in which we can say, I knew where I was on this day when this thing happened. So it was very important to us to be able to go to that and bring our son so he could experience it. I was able to book the tickets for the 9/11 Memorial Museum ahead of time. So we knew what time we were going to be going into the museum. So we arrived to New York City around 12:30, and our tickets for the Memorial Museum were at 2. So we grabbed lunch at 6 Point Brewing, which was on the first floor of the building that we parked in. I ended up booking the parking on the drive down to New York. I'm using a cloth and paper water drop sticker, and I flipped it upside down to use kind of like a geotag to write New York City. And you can see me using a Lamy 2000 at this time. Then I take a sip of coffee and using a Novelar and Galen Leather Co. collaboration pen, I start writing down some of the notes. And what I'm noting here is that we got up in the morning. We were all pretty much packed and ready to go. We had done all the packing the few days prior. So we pretty much showered, loaded up the car, and headed out. We decided to take the Tesla down to Newark as opposed to my vehicle, which I was pleased about just because I worry about my vehicle a lot. So it was causing me some stress to think about going 4 hours away from home and potentially having a car issue. I do have a cold right now. My husband picked up a cold on the trip, and I now have that cold. Yay. So apologies if my voice is a little froggy. And the drive down was really easy. We stopped in Meriden, Connecticut, and did a quick charge boost of the Tesla before continuing on to New York City. Now, the 9/11 Museum, it was phenomenal. We started out looking at Ground Zero and the memorial towers, and talked with our son about the names that are kind of etched in or cut out of the metal pieces surrounding each of the towers, and the flowers that are placed in the names are likely due to a friend or family member that visited the memorial. They had different artifacts throughout from the crash site. So they had beams just to highlight the impact on those towers, and despite the fact that these beams were set up to withstand so many tons, I think it was millions of tons, they were twisted and maimed due to the impact of these planes. So I grabbed a picture of one of the beams that actually was signed, initialed, and ephemera was left on it from first responders. So that's the picture that I have right there. And then we had some free time. So our museum pass was at 2 o'clock. It took us a little bit less than an hour to walk through, and our flight was at 11:55 p.m. out of Newark. So we knew that we didn't need to be there right away, but we ended up having some time to kill. So we walked around a little bit. We went to Dragon Tea and got some boba. Both my son and I got a brown sugar boba, or actually no, I think I got a Thai milk tea boba and he got brown sugar. And then we also went to Sienna Bakehouse, and my husband and I each got an espresso because, again, we were going to be up really late. So we wanted to make sure that we had the energy and stamina to make it. And then we walked around Liberty Park. So I'm just switching pens right here and grabbing my Lamy, which has this beautiful dark red ink that was a sample shared with me from Zen of the Pen here on YouTube. This is by Colorverse. It's called Intense Magnetic Field. And if you watch my July Currently Inked, you can see me swatching that one. But it's a really beautiful, deep burgundy red. And later on towards the end, I add in Liberty Park at the bottom just because I realized I had forgotten it. So one of the things that I found myself thinking is that it was really nice to be able to spend that time in New York City. We live so close that it is attainable to go there for a quick weekend trip, and we just never do. And I felt a little remiss on that. So I just wanted to document how I was having that thought in this moment. After we got the espresso, we decided to go ahead and head to the parking garage, because at that point we were just kind of biding time. And I'm actually very glad that we did, because when we got to the parking garage, there was this couple that were definitely from somewhere in the South based on their accents. And they were talking about how funny it would be for them to pretend to have a fight in front of the parking attendant workers. And then, funnily enough, they actually ended up having kind of an altercation with the parking attendant workers because they didn't have their ticket to leave the parking garage with them. Apparently, it was with somebody that they had visited, so they had to call that person to say, "Come meet us here." And without the ticket, they couldn't get out of the parking garage because they needed to scan the ticket to raise the bar. So it blocked up traffic. People had to move so that they could back out so that other people could exit. And meanwhile, we're just watching time kind of tick by as this is happening. And then once we left the parking garage, we were going to take the Holland Tunnel to go over to New Jersey. Neither of us had been through the Holland Tunnel before, so we were a little excited about that. But the 3/4 of a mile traffic or commute that it was going to require us to go to get into the Holland Tunnel took us about 45 minutes to go through. It was stop dead traffic. There were different lines of traffic merging, all going into the Holland Tunnel. And we were trying to figure out what was going on. And lo and behold, there was an accident in the tunnel. So it is good that we left a little earlier than we had anticipated, and then we went to a Tesla charging station near the airport just to get the vehicle up to 100% before parking it for 2 weeks. So we did the charge. We went to the parking place that I had pre-booked. It was not the fanciest of places, and both My husband and I were a little worried that we were leaving the Tesla there. Spoiler alert, it all turned out fine. But the parking place had a shuttle that brought us to the airport, and by the time we got there it was about 6:30, and we were not able to check in until 7:30. So we hunkered down, we weighed our luggage, found out my bag was a little heavier than it could be, so we moved some things around in our luggage, did a little bit of charging of devices, and then went through and checked in, went through security. My bag got pulled because I had a lot of technology and cords and such in it. So when security people went through my bag, and then we grabbed some dinner and waited. Our flight did end up getting delayed 2 times, and we started boarding at the time that we were supposed to take off, but it still ended up landing a little early, which was great. I was a little disappointed because I kind of pictured being in the airport and all of us sitting down and having a nice dinner and a glass of wine and watching one of the Stanley Cup games, but the airport terminal that we were in didn't have many options for food, and they specifically didn't have many options for gluten-free food. So we ended up getting sandwiches and salad, and I got a salad from a little kiosk and waited for our flight. So here you can see me going back and adding in Liberty Park because I realized that I had left that out and I wanted to document it. So we arrived at Athens at 4:35 p.m. Athens time. They are 7 hours ahead of my time zone. And it was a local temperature of 89 degrees, but it was a dry heat, so it wasn't really too challenging. Now, I did decide on this spread to pre-plan out where I was going to place the picture so that I could write around it versus on the first side where I placed them as I wrote. So this is what you see me doing right here, is adding in those pictures. And the third pen that I used on the page for Friday, June 21st is also a Novelar pen in their Voyage series, and that one is called Tromso, which is their Northern Lights pen. When we got to Athens, we had to go through customs, and my son got his very first passport stamp. I tried to get him to pose with a thumbs up in front of the booth, but he was not having it. So, he was tired, we were tired. We ended up waking him up on the flight because I was worried that if he continued to sleep, he wouldn't be able to sleep Saturday night, and we all needed to crash Saturday night in order to get on the right time schedule. So, and we had already pre-talked about how he was going to be really tired, and really tired might mean moody, but you still need to be polite even when you're tired. So we had done all of that pre-work ahead of time. Our taxi driver was awesome. We got our luggage, we walked out of the airport. There was a line of taxis, so that was super convenient. We gave him the address of our hotel, and in the half an hour drive from the airport to the hotel, our hotel was called Novus Hotel. He asked us where we were going. He gave recommendations of what to see. And one of the memories that I had, or one of the things that I wrote down to document, is when we got in the taxi, the first song that we heard was Backstreet Boys' Rock Your Body, which I just thought was really funny. So we got to the hotel. We did a little poking around at the hotel. We saw that there was a rooftop infinity pool, which was super fancy. And there was a rooftop little bar restaurant as well. From the rooftop, we had a direct view of the Acropolis and Parthenon, which was absolutely wonderful. So we saw all of that, took some pictures, and then we went down to the front desk and inquired about a place to eat. Even though I had started off the conversation with, we've had a very long day, we're very tired, could we, or is there a place that you would recommend? The first thing that the gentleman working on the front desk said is, oh, it's a 35, you can take public transportation here. And I said, oh, no, we're looking for something closer. He said, you can walk 35 minutes to here. And I said, no, we're looking for something closer. So he recommended this restaurant that was about 2 blocks away called Alexander the Great. And he even gave us a coupon for 10% off. So we went to Alexander the Great and we got our very first Greek salad. One of the biggest surprises that I had, or revelations maybe is the right thing to say, is our version of a Greek salad in America is not the same as a Greek salad in Greece. The big difference is there's no lettuce, there's no greens. So we had this beautiful Greek salad with a block of feta on the top and drizzled in oil and spices, and we had a glass of rosé. My son had a margarita pizza and got a little soda. What we also learned is a lot of the caps of plastic bottles in Greece, the cap doesn't come off. You can unscrew it and it's still attached to the bottle so that maybe you don't lose it. Maybe that's why. I thought it was a great idea. My son didn't necessarily love it. And then on our way back to the hotel, we stopped at a mini mart. We grabbed a bottle of chilled rosé and then got our son kind of settled in the hotel. He had a little bit of downtime, and then my husband and I went back up to the rooftop and sat on this terrace that we didn't want to go over to the pool area because there were other people there, and the terrace was empty, so we were able to be there by ourselves, and we enjoyed a bottle of rosé while looking out over the Athens city and watching the sunset, which was just so lovely, so lovely. And while we did that, we started talking about kind of our hopes for the next 2 days being in Athens and what our plan of attack was going to be, as well as anything that we needed to do to prepare for that. So one of the things that we were going to do is look at the locations of places and map out what we were going to do day 1 and what we were going to do day 2. I had pre-booked an Athens city pass, which ultimately was a good idea. I will talk in my next video about what was good about that versus what was not good about that. But the city pass allowed us to book a time at the Acropolis, and it gave us a transportation option. And so we plan on taking the public transport across town to do the things that we were hoping to do the next day. And again, I will talk a little bit more about that because while it was a really good thing to buy ahead of time, it did not serve the purpose that we ended up getting it for. One of the other things that while we were sitting up on the rooftop that we kept coming back to or thinking is how amazing it was that we were sitting at the top of our hotel and just able to look out at the Acropolis. And that was something that we were both just really thankful and grateful for. We did have a travel agent that helped to plan this trip, and I am very appreciative of everything that she did to help us out. And I think that the hotel was an excellent choice. Something you'll hear me talk about in the next video is how amazing the hotel breakfast was. Obviously, on Saturday, I did not know that, but it just was fantastic. We did, the kind of downside is the hotel was located in an area that wasn't super safe, but meh. All right, So that is day 1 and 2.